Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Black and Gold Breakdown, where we talk all things Steelers on the channel. If you're watching on YouTube, please do all that YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let's get right into it. Former Steelers cornerback and now CBS Sports NFL analyst and co-host of All Things Covered with Patrick Peterson and Bryant McFadden. Bryant McFadden put Steelers Twitter into a frenzy about an hour ago. Where's the tweet? Because I want to quote it exactly verbatim for what he said. So Bryant McFadden tweeted, "Omar is working. The Steelers are very close to landing a significant playmaker." That was an hour ago, and nothing's happened yet. But needless to say, that sent some people into a frenzy, and the speculation started about, oh my goodness, who is it? Is it going to be Courtland Sutton, who's been speculated over the past few days, knowing that the Steelers reached out at least once to the Broncos. It was told to me that they reached out before and during the NFL draft about Courtland Sutton. So maybe that's coming to fruition. I spoke to the source who gave me the stuff previously about the Steelers and Sutton. He said he hadn't heard anything about Courtland Sutton yet, but also that was, within the last hour. So things could be starting to move forward with a potential Courtland Sutton trade. It could also be calls to San Francisco about either Deebo Samuel or Brandon Aiyuk. The 49ers just drafted two receivers in the draft, one of which was Ricky Pearsall in the first round. So that was pretty indicative that a trade could be coming from San Francisco, whether they send out Deebo Samuel or Brandon Aiyuk. So it could be one of those two. It could be somebody that, we're not necessarily thinking of right now. It could be a Chris Godwin. Right now, the Buccaneers have four receivers that are pretty good. They have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, obviously, and they also have, again, I keep forgetting this fella's name. I know it's for Trey Palmer from Nebraska. I did that yesterday when talking about Trey Palmer as well. And they just drafted Jalen McMillan from Washington. So maybe the Buccaneers would be open to a trade for Chris Godwin. If you look at a name that I have thought of, and a few other people on the beat have talked about, I know that Noah Strackbein over at All Steelers had floated this idea. Davante Adams. His cap hit is pretty big this year, so that would need tinkered with. And if a trade would happen, it would have to be negotiated on how much the Raiders would take on of that salary, how much of the Steelers would take on. And, Davante Adams still, even though he's sneakily, 32 years old, but still playing really, really well. One of the better receivers in the game today. So that could be a name to watch for, like under the radar. But in terms of a trade coming, it does feel like that it's imminent. Again, if you're just joining and hadn't seen, former Steelers cornerback and current CBS NFL analyst Bryant McFadden tweeted out that, I'll just read it verbatim. "Ooh, Omar is cooking. The Steelers are very close to landing a significant playmaker." That was about an hour ago that he tweeted that. So, again, the names that have been connected to the Steelers over, between mid-March maybe up until now. Brandon Aiyuk being one of the more obvious ones. Deebo Samuel from San Francisco, since the 49ers drafted a pair of receivers, including Ricky Pearsall in the first round. That was pretty indicative that one of those guys is going to get moved. If not now, then certainly within the next year. But both of those guys are names to pay attention to. The Steelers also were trying to get at least one of them over draft weekend, and it was reported that in terms of what the 49ers wanted for Deebo Samuel, it was just too much, and the Steelers weren't willing to pay it. Maybe the 49ers have come off the ledge a little bit and are willing to accept a little bit less, something that the Steelers would be more inclined to pay. Again, something to keep in mind, something to think about there. And again, Courtland Sutton, that's a name that has been floated over the past week or so, I'd say. Jeremy Fowler had talked about it This all really started because Courtland Sutton wants a new contract. He only has $2 million in guaranteed money left on his current contract. Jeremy Fowler reported that maybe the Steelers could be a name to watch. I had reached out to a source who then told me that the Steelers had called both before and during the NFL draft inquiring about Courtland Sutton. So these calls have been made. They have reached out multiple times about Courtland Sutton. Maybe a deal is finally getting done. I keep refreshing Twitter just to see if anything is coming out, because it does feel like a trade for a receiver is imminent. Now, if this ends up being the Steelers just re-signing Patrick Peterson, people are going to be pissed, man. I'm going to be one of them. Patrick Peterson, for those of you who don't know, is Bryant McFadden's cousin. They do a podcast together called All Things Covered. So, they're constantly in contact and talking to one another. If this just ends up being the Steelers re-signing Patrick Peterson, people are going to be annoyed, myself included. No disrespect to Patrick Peterson, but that would be rather disappointing. And again, if you want to be part of the conversation, leave a comment. Let me know who you think it is. If you have any questions, comments, anything like that, by all means, feel free to be part of the conversation. The Courtland Sutton stuff, like I've said over the past few days, man, it feels very real. I would not be surprised if that's the guy. In terms of why I don't think it's a free agent, there's not any big name free agents left. Odell Beckham to me would be also like a real letdown if that's who it ends up being. Because let's be frank, Odell Beckham hasn't been a quote unquote significant playmaker in a while. So I don't think it's going to be Odell Beckham Jr. And really, there's no one else that really fits the bill of being a significant playmaker that's on the free agent market. Kutch is him. What's your first choice? My first choice would be Aiyuk. I think overall, he's a top 10 receiver in this league, and he would be just an incredible addition to the offense, where you've got George Pickens doing, the deep ball guy. I comped him to being like, Plexico Burress, where he's, constantly downfield, turning those 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls. He's tremendous at being that type of player, but he's not a guy who's known for his route running, known for his route tree. The Steelers need somebody who can be a legitimate X receiver. Brandon Aiyuk is very much that. So he would be my first choice. Second choice to me would be Sutton. He had a career high in touchdown receptions last year with Russell Wilson. And him and Russ have a really good relationship. So I think that would be a hand in glove fit. Deebo Samuel would also fit well in the offense. It would make sense, especially in an Arthur Smith offense that, does a lot of run oriented things. So I think that he would fit in well with what the Steelers do offensively. Scott says, sounds like the right fit for the Steelers. Sutton and Wilson are familiar with each other. Yeah. And they have a really good relationship. And I've been told that, the relationship between those two is good. So that would be, again, it would be a good fit in my opinion. And, if you have a starting perimeter receiver duo of Courtland Sutton and George Pickens, and then you put Roman Wilson in the slot, hell, you can do much worse than that. So I would be very happy with that. If that's what it ends up being. Like I said, my first choice would be Brandon Aiyuk. Again, that's the name that's been floated around with the Steelers for a month and a half now. Started like mid-March. There were rumors that Brandon Aiyuk wanted dealt. His agent kind of shot down those rumors, but he wants a new contract. And when you see both Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown get paid, which, by the way, that wasn't a coincidence. When Howie Roseman sees one of his arch rivals in the 49ers and one of his biggest threats in the NFC, their biggest offensive playmaker, arguably, wanting a new contract and frustrated, you don't think that he doesn't love the fact that he just drove up the price by signing both of his receivers? Because now Brandon Aiyuk can look at John Lynch and be like, okay, they're paying Jalen Hurts a lot of money, and they just proved that they can still pay two receivers. You can't pay me? I know Deebo's getting paid, but we're not paying Brock Purdy anything. You're telling me you can't pay me? Because they just showed that they can. So I don't think that was a coincidence at all that Howie Roseman made it a priority to pay Devontae Smith and then very soon after pay A.J. Brown. That wasn't a coincidence. X Pickens, Y Wilson, Z Sutton. Yep. Honestly, no. I think that I think Sutton would be the X in this situation. I think he's a better, more crisp route runner and can gain natural separation a little bit better than Pickens. I think Pickens would be the Z in this situation. I think that, in the next year, those roles could definitely switch. And Pickens, by the way, credit to him. The biggest concerns about Pickens coming out of Georgia was that, he's not that great of a route runner. Those were fair assessments. He got better at it last year, but I'm sure that he would still like to continue getting better at that. And those roles could switch, by the way. I think that what the Steelers really want to do is take advantage of what Pickens does best, and that's the deep balls, the intermediate, like comeback. If there's any contested balls on the sidelines that he can catch, and when they put him in the slot, send him on drags, send him on slants, get him the ball really quickly, and make him get yards after the catch and make people miss. Those are the things that he is very good at doing. So I think that is the biggest goal when it comes to George Pickens. Like I said, I think in terms of the most realistic options, I think all of them are realistic with Omar Khan. Like over the past few months, I've learned to never say never when it comes to Omar Khan, because he's proven that, hey, he'll do just about anything if it means making the team better. So I think all of them are realistic in terms of Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, and Courtland Sutton. But if I had to rank them, I would go Brandon Aiyuk, Courtland Sutton, Deebo Samuel. I would be completely satisfied with either of them for different reasons. Brandon Aiyuk is the best overall receiver out of all of them and would give them a true X factor at X receiver. Courtland Sutton is a really good receiver, kind of does a lot of what George Pickens does, but he's a little bit more refined as a route runner. And the built-in chemistry with Russell Wilson is there. He had 10 touchdowns last year. The Steelers combined, I think, threw 13 touchdown passes last year. So right there, I mean, that's appealing. And then Deebo Samuel and, a run-first type of offense that can take advantage of his versatility. So for different reasons, I would be okay with either of them being acquired. Scott says, I'm just worried about Aiyuk's contract will hurt the Steelers in the future. Here's the thing, man. They have a lot of money going into next year. They're projected to have about $85 million in cap space. They're not really paying any quarterback right now. Hardly anything. They're paying their quarterback scraps. If you want a premium player, you're going to have to pay them premium money. And that's the thing. You are what you invest in. So people who might, anybody who says, they shouldn't trade for Aiyuk because he's going to cost a lot. Okay. But don't be angry when the cheaper option isn't as good. You get what you pay for, especially at the receiver position. So they can afford Brandon Aiyuk rather comfortably, especially next year, because again, projected $85 million in cap space. I'm completely okay with paying Brandon Aiyuk because he's very good. So I don't worry about paying really good players, really good player money, because if they help you win, then they're worth all the money in the world. So that doesn't worry me. I'm more worried about if they would take, a mediocre player and give them more money than what they're worth. Those are things that irritate me more than paying good players good player money. Michael says, either one of them wide receivers makes the Steelers a Super Bowl contender. Again, I've said this before. I'll give me till week 8, and I'll tell you if they're Super Bowl contenders or not. I need to see the quarterbacks. Tell me how good the quarterbacks are going to be, and I'll let you know if they're contenders or not. Because I don't care how good the rest of the rosters. If the quarterbacks stink, nothing else matters. Just frankly speaking, they could have the best roster on planet Earth, but if they have bottom tier quarterback play, none of it matters. So by week 8, week 9, I think we'll see if they actually are real contenders or not. But right now, until we know what Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields look like in this offense, we're not going to know. So tell me how good the quarterback is. I'll tell you if they're a contender or not. And if the quarterbacks are bad, then they're not. And that's just what it is. I would love to think that either of them would be good. And another thing is they don't need them to be elite. As long as they are good, then I like their chances. But if the quarterbacks are bad, then that's not a conversation, especially in a conference with Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, the Texans, the Jaguars, the Bengals. It's just you have to have at least good quarterback play. Doesn't need to be elite, doesn't need to be great, but it needs to be good, or you're not going anywhere. It doesn't matter how good the rest of the roster is. So I would love for them to get a receiver to help out these quarterbacks. But if the quarterbacks themselves don't show up, this is going to be all for naught. I keep refreshing just to see if anything happens. I'm waiting for the Sheffy bomb. So we're gonna see what happens here. Nothing yet. Hopefully it's again. If it ends up just being Patrick Peterson, so many people are going to be irritated. And again, for those of you who don't know, or if you're just joining, former Steelers cornerback Bryant McFadden, who's now a CBS NFL analyst, put out a tweet saying that the Steelers were very close to landing a significant playmaker. He's also Patrick Peterson's cousin. They do a podcast together called All Things Covered. If it ends up being that they just re-signed Patrick Peterson, I'm going to throw my computer out a window. I would be so upset. So we'll see. Tom says they have $99 million in cap. So I don't know if it's that much. The last number I saw, I think, was from either Spotrac or Over the Cap, was 85. So we'll see. You think it would happen within the night? I hope so. Like, if it happens within the next 24 hours, that would be pretty rad. So we're not just all like just waiting up till 3 a.m. I mean, like, you're not going to catch me, Omar. I'm going to be awake for this. So I would like if it would happen today. Hell, if it happened right now, that'd be great. Then we get live, we're like, oh my goodness, breaking news. So that would be neat. I would like it to be done within the next, like, at most within the next, like, 36 hours. That would be my ideal timing of it. Let me take a swig here. Oh, I've done a lot of talking over the past few days. Tom says 85 is good too. Yeah, I mean, that they're going to have to bring back a few of their own guys. But if you look at the way they drafted, like, James Daniels is going to be a free agent next year. You drafted Mason McCormick, so you didn't have to pay somebody. So I would guess that James Daniels is probably walking next year, but that's why they drafted Mason McCormick. Scott says, I think Russ, with his experience in this type of run, first and heavy, should finally open the door for Pat Freiermuth to have a breakout year. Yeah, Pat Freiermuth is basically just going to be a slot receiver in this offense. If you look at Kyle Pitts' snap counts over the past couple of years, he's basically just been a slot receiver. He hasn't lined up as like a true tight end nearly as often as he did a slot receiver. So that's why I think they're only going to keep 5 receivers on the roster, with Pat Freiermuth being the 6th receiver, quote unquote. So they're going to keep Michael Pruitt and Darnell Washington as like the predominant on the line tight end alignment tight ends. Connor Hayward, I assume, is probably going to get a roster spot, maybe. But I think that they're basically just going to utilize Freiermuth as a slot receiver. It's still crazy when the Russ news announced at like midnight. Yeah, it was literally like midnight of the of free agency beginning, where he tweeted out the video. Just joined. What's the rumor? So yeah, if anybody is coming in right now, former Steelers cornerback Bryant McFadden, who's now an analyst for CBS, tweeted out that the Steelers were very close to landing a significant playmaker. So that was about like an hour, 15 minutes ago, I'd say, hour, 20 minutes ago. And then Steelers Twitter went into a frenzy trying to figure out who it would be. My guess is it is one of these 3. It's either Brandon Aiyuk, Courtland Sutton, or Deebo Samuel. Those are the only 3 that really make sense to me. I threw out a couple like potential under the radar names, maybe a Chris Godwin, because the Buccaneers just drafted Jalen McMillan, and they also have Trey Palmer with Mike Evans. So that could be a potential name. If the Raiders would be willing to move Devontae Adams and take some of his salary, that could be like a surprise name. But I think that it would really just be one of those first 3 names. There hasn't really been anybody else connected to Pittsburgh in terms of trading. And I don't think it's anybody in free agency, because there's no significant playmakers at receiver left in the free agent market. So I do think it will be a trade. And again, I'm constantly refreshing to see if anything happens. And in case, you're just watching the channel for the first time, I had a source tell me that the Steelers reached out both before and during the NFL draft. They reached out to the Denver Broncos about Courtland Sutton. That's, again, before and during the NFL draft. So they reached out multiple times. So maybe this could be the deal finally getting done, especially because Denver, and I tweeted like this at the start of day 3 of the NFL draft saying, I wonder if the Broncos would draft Troy Franklin, who was Bo Nix's teammate at Oregon, and he fell to day 4 when a lot of people thought he could maybe go in the first round. He falls to round 4 of the NFL draft. I said, I wonder if they would just draft Troy Franklin to pair with Bo Nix and trade Courtland Sutton. Well, they drafted Troy Franklin. So now I wonder if that's coming to fruition, where right now their top 3 receivers would be Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, and Tim Patrick, who, if you remember, Tim Patrick a few years ago was really good, but then he suffered back-to-back season-ending injuries after signing a nice contract, which is really heartbreaking for him. So I'm wondering if that's the move right now is, okay, they have Troy Franklin. Putting my mind, if I'm being the Broncos right now, I'm thinking, okay, we just drafted Troy Franklin, who already has built-in chemistry with Bo Nix. He can be, our de facto number 1. Marvin Mims is our slot guy. Tim Patrick on the outside. And maybe, and I floated this out too, maybe the Steelers send Calvin Austin as part of the deal. If the Broncos would want a receiver in return, because I don't think that they would trade Van Jefferson because they just signed him. I don't think that they would trade Quez Watkins because I don't think he really brings a ton of trade value. Some people were talking about Pat Freiermuth being traded. I don't think that would happen. But if the Broncos would want, some sort of receiver in return, then maybe that happens. But that would be my guess. And I think a hypothetical trade that makes sense would be a 5th round pick, one of the 2 7th round picks from Philadelphia, or hell, both of them throw in 2 7ths. And if Denver is a little bit stingy about it, have the 5th be a conditional 4th round pick. If Courtland Sutton has X amount of catches, yards, touchdowns, what have you, then the 5th round pick can become a 4th round pick. I think that is the most realistic trade I can think of right now. And look, again, I think all of them are realistic. Because if Omar Khan has showed us anything this offseason, it's anything is on the table. So they went from having a quarterback room of Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, and Mason Rudolph to now having a quarterback room of Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, Kyle Allen, and now John Reese Plumlee, who they signed as an undrafted free agent. So just complete night and day difference. Anything is on the table. And if you have any other questions, comments, by all means, leave comments and I'll throw them up and we'll keep the conversation going. But it feels like a trade is happening very soon. And whoever it may be for, it definitely feels like it's going to be a receiver. And another reason why I just don't think it's going to be a free agent signing, there's no significant playmakers on the free agent market right now at receiver. At least not on the outside, even not in the slot. Like the names that are still available are guys like DJ Chark, who some Steelers fans have been like, yeah, sign DJ Chark. I was thinking about this today. A lot of fans are worried about not having that other outside guy. You got to remember, like the Detroit Lions were 2 quarters away from going to the Super Bowl without a reliable outside threat. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is a slot receiver. He does not line up on the perimeter. He is a slot receiver. Their perimeter guy last year was Josh Reynolds, who's now in Denver. And they didn't really have a Jamison Williams, but if anything, he was more of just a gadget speed guy. He's not, a predominant breakout outside guy. Mark says, I would take Chark or Renfro. Renfro's a slot receiver, though, too, man. And they just drafted Roman Wilson to be that. So I like Hunter Renfro. Like before the draft, I would have been totally on board with them, drafting an outside receiver and then signing Hunter Renfro. That would have made perfect sense to me. I would have been totally on board with that. But since they just drafted Roman Wilson, and it sounds like they're trying to acquire another receiver who's going to be the outside guy, I don't think Hunter Renfro would make too much sense for them right now. I like Hunter Renfro. I think in a good offense, he could still be very good. But in terms of need for the Steelers, it wouldn't make too much sense. I think Chark would be the more realistic option, but I think that they're trading for a guy in terms of acquiring a receiver. Greg says, do what it takes to get Aiyuk. If that doesn't work, move to Sutton for a 5th or 6th in 2025. Don't trade for Deebo. Yeah, I'm definitely on board with the, hey, do what you got to do to get Aiyuk. I've been saying that for the past month and a half. Like, if you can get Brandon Aiyuk, get Brandon Aiyuk. And in terms of what a trade would be like for Courtland Sutton, his former teammate Jerry Jeudy went for a pair of day 3 picks. I think it was 2 6th-round picks that he got traded for. So, and Courtland Sutton's better than Jerry Jeudy, so it would probably be a 5th-round pick and maybe one of the 7ths, something of that, where the 5th-round pick can become a 4th. So we'll see what it leads to. In terms of Deebo, like I've said this before, if you want like a true X receiver who can separate, who can, get into space by himself, like that's Brandon Aiyuk. Deebo Samuel, it's not really him. He's not known for being, like a Brandon Aiyuk type route runner where he's like, that's just not Deebo's. He's not very great at separating. And go back and watch the Super Bowl if you want proof of that. So again, Deebo Samuel, very great, versatile player. But in terms of, again, I wouldn't necessarily hate it because Deebo is very good. And I'm sure that Arthur Smith would find ways to use him and take advantage of that talent. And I wouldn't be angry if they got Deebo. But I do think that, again, my preferred options would be Aiyuk, Sutton, Deebo. Mark adds on, I get that, but I just think he's a plug-and-play guy. Roman will have to get through the rookie wall. I think he starts right away, dude. I think that their plan is to go the receiver that they acquire as the X, and then George Pickens on the outside, Roman in the slot. Because right now he's better than any other option that they have in the slot, And then the 4th guy will be Van Jefferson. And then the 5th guy, I would assume, would be Calvin Austin. And I think that those are the 5 receivers they keep. And then Pat Freiermuth is going to be a de facto receiver, with Michael Pruitt and Darnell Washington being the 2 tight ends. And I assume that they would keep Connor Hayward as a 3rd tight end. That's my projection right now. I don't think Quez Watkins makes the team. They have guys like Marquez Callaway, if you remember him from the Saints, who had a few like nice games, and everybody who's like a big fantasy person was like, "Oh my God, Marquez Callaway!" They have him on a futures contract, so he'll be in camp. Denzel Mims, who was a former 2nd-round pick of the Jets, they have him on a futures contract, so he'll be in camp. There's going to be guys fighting for spots, but I don't think any of them are going to make it. If they do keep a 6th receiver, I would bet it ends up being Marquez Callaway over Quez Watkins, just because Quez Watkins isn't good. And I think that Marquez Callaway has more upside in terms of just being a downfield threat. But I wouldn't be surprised if they end up keeping 5 receivers, having Freiermuth as the de facto 6th guy, and then their 3 tight ends are Washington, Pruitt, and Connor Hayward. That's my line of thinking right now, because Kyle Pitts was a slot receiver in this offense. He did not line up as a true tight end very often. So I think we're going to see that with Pat Freiermuth, which would be fun. I think that'll be good. I see a lot of 12 and 13 personnel in Smith's offense. Yeah, so I actually wrote a piece about it for Behind the Steel Curtain a few weeks ago, as just to give fans an idea of what the offense will look like. So the Steelers last year were predominantly coming out in 11 personnel, or with only 1 tight end on the field. So the Falcons led the NFL in 2 tight end personnel in early downs. They led the NFL in 22 personnel, which is 2 running backs, 2 tight ends. So we're going to see a lot more 2 tight end sets than we did last year, where we rarely saw it with the Steelers. We're going to see it a lot more. We're going to see a lot of different looks. Arthur Smith was talking after the draft, and Nick Farbaugh of Steelers Now asked him, like, are they going to incorporate more like gap run schemes as well as outside zone stuff? And Arthur Smith really, wanted to get the point across that the offense isn't going to get stale. He's going to add a bunch of different stuff, whether it be, gap style runs, because Zach Frazier's really good at pulling, Broderick Jones really good at pulling, Troy Fatanu's good in space. Like, they have a ton of guys who are really good at getting in space and blocking downhill. So he really wanted to get the point across that he's not going to let the offense get stale, and he's going to play to the strengths of the guys that he has. So I'm excited for it, man. I'm really excited to see what the offense is going to look like. There's going to be a lot of different looks. And it also felt like a subtle jab to Matt Canada about like the offense not getting stale, because everybody and their mother knew that Matt Canada's offense sucked and wasn't good or innovative. So I think that that's what I'm excited for the offense. Very excited. Greg says Mark Wilson will definitely start. Yeah, I agree. I would be surprised if if like they put Van Jefferson or Austin in over Roman Wilson. I just don't see that happening. I think that Roman Wilson starts day one, and I think that I think Fatanu and Frazier are absolutely starting day one as well. So the first the first four guys that they took are all going to be instant players. I don't know if Peyton Wilson will necessarily start, but he's going to get a lot of snaps. The top three off-ball linebackers in the defense are going to be Roberts, Queen, and Wilson. And again, even if he's not a quote-unquote starter, like if they put Landon Roberts and Patrick Queen on the field to start, Wilson's still going to get a nice amount of snaps. But it certainly does feel like a trade is coming soon. And again, I keep refreshing to see if anything happens. So we're gonna see if any other news comes out about it. But yeah, if you're just joining us, former Steelers cornerback Bryant McFadden putting out a tweet that says, "Ooh, Omar is working. The Steelers are very close to landing a significant playmaker." So very much feels like a receiver will be coming very soon, which is exciting because it's something that we've been talking about for the past few weeks of, what are they going to do to address the need of, still needing another receiver on the outside. And it feels like this trade, or the trade that's about to happen, is going to be their answer. So we're going to find out. Excuse me. I'm excited. I'm very excited. I would like for it to be Brandon Aiyuk. I'm totally cool if it's Courtland Sutton, and I'm all right with it being Deebo. But those are the only three names that make sense to me, just because those are the three names that we've seen connected to the Steelers. There's not another name that really sticks out right now. I mean, you can throw a name at me, by the way, in terms of like maybe some ideas of guys that could be sneaky under the radar trade targets. So if you have any ideas, you can throw them in the chat and I'll throw them up and give you my thoughts on them. I threw up Chris Godwin because the Buccaneers now have four like solid receivers. They got Mike Evans. They have Trey Palmer there, who's really nice as a rookie, and they just drafted Jalen McMillan. So I'm wondering if the Chris Godwin trade talks are potentially open. Oh, this is a good one. Oh, my bad. Hold on, Mark. I'll get to you in a minute. Rob says, I'm hoping Terry McLaurin. That would be a good one. The thing with that is, they just drafted Jaden Daniels. And organizationally, like if I'm the Commanders, the last thing that I would want to do is trade away my number one receiver when I just drafted a new quarterback and I want him to succeed and have all the pieces around him to succeed. They've got, who else do they have there right now? They have Jahan Dotson, who they took in the first round a couple years ago. I can't remember any of the other receivers that are there, which, by the way, probably only strengthens the argument that the Commanders wouldn't trade Terry McLaurin. But maybe I like the idea. I would certainly be okay with Terry McLaurin. I just don't see Washington, especially in this new regime. I just don't see them trading Terry McLaurin when they just drafted Jaden Daniels. Mark says, if they're interested in bringing back Cam Sutton, I just have to wonder how long it takes with his legal issues. Yeah, I mean, Khan and Tomlin reportedly had a conversation with Cam Sutton. His charges were initially going to be like potential felonies, but they dropped down to misdemeanor charges. So I think I saw a report saying that he's like in a behavioral program of some sort. So we'll see. John Mechie would be so underwhelming, man. I would be pretty like nothing against John Mechie, but if that ends up being their answer, I would be a little bit like, really, you put out a significant playmaker and it's John Mechie. Like respectfully speaking to John Mechie, like he's fine, but he's not a needle mover. Certainly, let me actually pull up his numbers just so I can give you all just an idea of John Mechie. Now, John Mechie, by the way, my utmost respect is, if I'm not mistaken, John Mechie had to leave football for a little bit to battle cancer, and then he came back. So my utmost respect to John Mechie, absolutely. But yeah, last year, 16 games, only had 30 targets, 16 catches for 158 yards. I wouldn't be surprised if the Texans are trying to move him, just because right now they have three like legitimately really good receivers, and Nico Collins, Tank Dell, and Stephon Diggs. So I'm sure that they would absolutely listen to trade offers for him. But I don't think that it would be him in this situation. Patterson is good, plus Arthur Smith's system is tight end heavy and play action. Yeah, like I said, I think that Freiermuth is going to be basically just a slot receiver, and they're going to have Pruitt in Washington. By the way, I hope we see more receiving opportunities for Darnell Washington because he's a behemoth, and who the hell is going to stop him? I'm not saying that he's got to line up in the slot every play, but give him some looks. He's incredibly athletic for his size. I hope that we see more passes thrown the way of Darnell Washington this year. That would be very good. First time I've caught you live. How often and when do you do these? So every day that I do these, I always say, I'm going to do like 1 or 2 a week during the off season. But when 700 of you tune into all of them, if you want me to do it daily, I'll do it daily just to have, a nice little Steelers talk. During the season, that will be a little bit more tricky because I'm going to be, having writing responsibilities every day that I have to do. So I'll probably do it during the season twice a week. So it'll be the day after game day. So it'll be usually Mondays, Fridays, or Tuesdays, depending on when the game is. And then like the Friday or Saturday before Sunday. If it's a Thursday night game, we'll do it on a Wednesday. So it'll be twice a week, at least during the season. If you seriously want me to do them like daily or like 4 times a week, whatever it may be, and 650 of you who are in here right now keep tuning in, then I'll do it daily. Whatever the people want. And if you want extra content as well, I do have a membership, like YouTube membership set up. I've made it the cheapest one possible. It's $2.99. What it gives you guys is just perks to extra content. And when I have players on, when I have all my media friends throughout the media sphere on during, whether it's this show, whether it's my show, The Pump Fake, you guys can submit your questions and I will ask them on air. So those are just, a few different perks that you can get. I'll do membership only shows. So if that's something that you'd be interested in, that would be awesome if you would subscribe to that. Again, $2.99 a month. If you don't want that, absolutely not an issue. I'm not going to cut back on the content if you don't. But YouTube gave me the option to do it, so I figured I may as well do it and see if anybody had any interest in it. So, by all means, if these get this much attention and I do them every day, then I'll keep doing them every day. If it dies down a little bit, then I'll start doing them, 2-3 times a week, and then in season, I'll do them twice a week. Before game day and after game day. And if you want more content, it's not just the Steelers show I do. The Steelers show, the Black and Gold Breakdown, which you're watching right now, I do is only YouTube. The Pump Fake, which is my national NFL podcast, I do twice a week. You can listen to that wherever you get your podcast. The new one actually came out today. Me and my friend JP Acosta from SB Nation recap the draft. So you can go listen to that. And then I'll put out clips of each show as well on my feed, so you get all the videos and everything like that too. So I'm giving you as much content as I can. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. It means a lot to me. So if you have any more questions, by the way, keep dropping them in. James says, think the wide receiver acquisition could be Justin Jefferson. I say this in the nicest way possible. The Vikings aren't trading Justin Jefferson. I would shave my eyebrows off if the Steelers acquired Justin Jefferson. Okay. Somebody's going to clip that, and we're going to get like a notification in 10 minutes. The Steelers just traded for Justin Jefferson, and I'm going to be pissed. That would be the only situation I would be pissed if the Steelers traded for Justin Jefferson, is like somebody's going to clip me saying that and going, oh, well, you got to shave your eyebrows now. So hopefully now they don't. That was a little bit hyperbole. I will make a bet, though. What will I do if the Steelers trade for Justin Jefferson? I'll do the one chip challenge. Hold me to it. I'm not doing the eyebrow thing. I value my complexion way too much to do the eyebrow thing. I'll do the one chip challenge. If the Steelers trade for Justin Jefferson, I'll do the one chip challenge on air. And you can see me be miserable for a little bit. How's that sound? I think that's a fair trade. One chip challenge if Justin Jefferson becomes a Steeler. That's how confident I am that he will not be a Steeler. Mark says, I did too. Need some oh, I appreciate you, man. I do appreciate that. Gracie, I would love to see them feed Washington more. I agree. I want to see more of, especially in the red zone. To hell with it. Put Darnell Washington in the backfield at the 1. Who the hell's going to tackle him? Even if they do get to him, he can just reach the ball out, and it's a touchdown. Do a bunch of crazy shit with Darnell Washington. He's 6'8". He's incredibly athletic for being 6'8". Fucking use him. Sorry, I said shit and an F-bomb there, so that was a little bit much. Steelers could develop Quez Watkins and Van Jefferson. Quez Watkins is bad. I will say that. I did not understand the Quez Watkins signing at all. He's not good. Van Jefferson is a fine wide receiver 4 who knows the offense, was with Arthur Smith last year in Atlanta. That's why they brought him in. Definitely not surprised at that by any means. But he's a fine, like, 4th receiver. He's a good blocker. That's another reason why he's good for the offense. Again, he knows it. I don't think he's going to turn into anything great. If Steelers trade for Justin Jefferson, you have to... Sorry, Tim. I enjoy having a career. I'm not going to do that, but I appreciate the good laugh you gave me. 6'8" on the goal. Exactly. Who the hell's tackling his big ass? Nobody. I would love to see, like, if you just put him at fullback, even have him be a lead blocker, or if they could just give him the ball out of the fullback position. There's so many things they could do with him. So many things they could do with him. Yeah, Tim, USA Today wouldn't appreciate that. I'm sure I would get a phone call shortly after letting me know that I was relieved of my duties. So I enjoy doing this for a living. So respectfully, while that was funny, and I appreciate the laugh, can't do that. If you want that, you have to subscribe to my OnlyFans. I'm kidding. I don't have an OnlyFans. No OnlyFans here. No Diddy. Good Lord, what is happening? But yeah, Justin Jefferson's not happening. The same thing with T. Higgins. That won't happen. I don't think they're going to trade T. Higgins to begin with. The only situation I see them trading T. Higgins, the Bengals, is if like they have like a really bad season somehow, and they're like 3-5 at the deadline. And they're like, okay, we're not going to win the Super Bowl this year. Let's just trade T. Higgins and get something for him. But I think they're going to be really good. Honestly, if I had to pick right now, the Bengals are my AFC pick in the Super Bowl. So I know that that's a little bit sacrilege as a Steelers fan, but the Bengals are really good. And I think that people are kind of forgetting about them just because Joe got hurt in the middle of last year, was hurt at the beginning of the year, and they started off slow. But once they got off the bye week, they destroyed the 49ers and looked like they were really getting back into a rhythm. And then he gets hurt against Baltimore, and their season just, once he got hurt, their season was done, if we're being honest. Bengals have no D. Oh, I disagree. They brought back Von Bell, and they brought over Geno Stone in the secondary. That was their biggest weakness last year, is that their secondary wasn't all that great, and they were young. You bring over Von Bell, who was really good for them prior to going to Carolina. You bring over Geno Stone from a division rival in Baltimore. Now, Trey Hendrickson did request a trade, so I wonder if they're going to try to get him a new deal because he's been really good for them. They've got guys like Logan Wilson in the middle of the defense. I like Cincinnati a lot. I think that they've been a little bit slept on this offseason. Use Washington similar to the way Smith uses Johnny Smith at the side. Yeah, I think that would be fun. Johnny Smith also last year was like utilized a lot with the Falcons. So I think that more Darnell Washington usage is better for the greater good. What percent chance do you believe that they get Aiyuk? Ooh, that's a good question. I think it's more likely that it's Courtland Sutton. So I'd say it's like 60% Courtland Sutton. Like, maybe 60 is a little bit much. We'll say like 45%, 40 to 45% Courtland Sutton, and like 30 to 35% Brandon Aiyuk or Deebo. I think that Deebo and Brandon Aiyuk are about equally as likely to come to Pittsburgh. And then I think Courtland Sutton is probably the favorite right now to be the answer. Cincinnati, Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, my prediction for the division. I got to tell you, I think the Steelers finished with a better record than the Ravens. I think the Ravens lost a lot this offseason. They lose defensive coordinator Mike Macdonald, who was the best defensive coordinator in football last year. He's now in Seattle. They lose Patrick Queen, obviously, to Pittsburgh. They lose Geno Stone to the Bengals. They brought back Justin Madubuike, which is good to bring them back. They still got Roquan Smith. They still got guys on defense, don't get me wrong, but Mike Macdonald was damn good. And I think that losing him will hurt them a lot. And Mark Andrews is getting older. He got hurt last year. Who the hell's their running back right now? because Gus Edwards isn't there, J.K. Dobbins isn't there. They're both in Los Angeles now with the Chargers. It's that fast cat whose name is escaping me right now, but he tore his ACL. And what the hell is his name? Somebody tell me who his name was, because I don't feel like looking it up. But he was good. I enjoyed watching him, and I was really upset when he got hurt because he was really fun to watch. Keaton Mitchell, that was his name. Yeah, we'll see how healed up he is. I don't know. Did they draft a running back? I don't have their draft class in front of me. But Baltimore doesn't scare me. I think that oh yeah, they signed Derrick Henry. I forgot about that. Even then, they still don't scare me. Still don't scare me. I think that, and I wrote about it for USA Today, I think that last year was their best chance of winning a Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. And I think that right now that window's closed because they tried to get cute. They had a really good running offense, and they tried to prove a point that Lamar Jackson could go toe-to-toe and throw them to a victory over the Chiefs. And he showed that he couldn't. So if a 30-year-old running back is their answer to get over the hump, good luck. I don't think that that's happening. So I think as of right now, my division prediction is Bengals, Steelers, Ravens, Browns. Oh, by the way, I said this yesterday. Schedule release is May 9th. What I do every year is I do two of these. I go game by game the night of the schedule release and predict every game. And then the week before the regular season starts, I do it again. So I will reveal my first game by game predictions on here. You guys can come watch it. And we'll have a little bit of a debate about that, which would be pretty fun. Let's see. A lot of the stuff came in. Reflexive says, scariest division in the NFL right now. I would agree. I think the AFC South is a very close second. Gracie, we're going to ground and pound the Bengals. No, that's like the third time Gracie said no diddy. The thing with the ground and pound stuff is like that'll work in the regular season against like mediocre teams, even like against good teams. Like the Broncos beat the Chiefs last year, and everybody made a big deal out of that. The reason that the Broncos beat the Chiefs last year is because the Chiefs didn't care. And I don't like saying that because the NFL regular season shouldn't just be like a walkthrough for the Chiefs, but at this point it is. Like they're getting amped up for like week 1 through like week 4. They're pretty into it. But like week 9, they're like, where are we going? Oh, we got to go to Denver. All right. Sure. Once they get to like week 17 though, week 18, when they started turning things on and just all of a sudden cleaned up all of their issues, like they were sleepwalking until they woke up and realized, okay, we actually have to start playing now. So that's why I worry about like all the talk about, oh, Steelers are just going to ground and pound their way to a bunch of victories. They can in the regular season for sure. So they'll play bad teams that they can just run all over. But eventually in the playoffs, you got to make some throws. And I really hope that Russell Wilson and or Justin Fields take a step forward and can make throws, because if not, then they're not going to go very far again. Von Bell fits what they do very well. Yeah, he was a really good safety for them. And he went to Carolina I think he was only there for a year, and then he came back. Similar to how Cam Sutton worked well in Pittsburgh, but not so much he was actually in Detroit last year. He fits what they do well. Again, if Cam Sutton is if they do bring back Cam Sutton, okay. But they did just sign this kid, Beanie Bishop, out of West Virginia, who led the nation in passes broken up, was a consensus All-American last year, had 4 interceptions, was an undrafted free agent. They just signed him. Would not be surprised if he's their nickel starter week 1. So keep an eye on that. Steelers don't have a quarterback. We'll find out if they do. I think that here's the thing. What I've tried to tell most people who aren't Steelers fans on the outside looking in, Michael, I don't know if you are or not. I can't tell from your profile picture. It looks like you are. My thing is this. The Steelers don't need Russell Wilson or Justin Fields to be top 5 quarterbacks, because last year they had, the 30th and 35th best quarterback in the NFL, and Trubisky and Pickett. And Mason Rudolph, it's not as if he was a franchise answer either. If Justin Fields or Russell Wilson are like the 17th best quarterback in the league, and everything else is as good as expected, that's at least a 10-win team. They can replicate their win total from last year if that's the case. They can be an 11-win team if that's the case. But they don't need their quarterbacks to be Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert. They just need them to be average. If they get a league average quarterback and the defense is as good as expected and everything else is as good as expected, then they're in business. Steelers are 7-1 in the last 8 against the Ravens. Tomlin knows how to beat them. Yeah, And sometimes teams just have each other's number, and the Steelers have the Ravens' number. Lamar Jackson's only beaten the Steelers once, and that was in 2019 against Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. And in that game, it goes to overtime. Tomlin defers to the Ravens. They go to overtime, and that's before the new overtime rules. So if the Ravens score a touchdown, game over. He defers to Baltimore in overtime. Says, "Yep, you can have the ball." They go 3 and out. The Steelers get the ball back, so they only need a field goal to win. Duck hits Juju, and then, of course, Juju fumbles because Marlon Humphrey punches it out, and then Justin Tucker kicks a game-winning field goal. So that was annoying. But that's the only time Lamar Jackson's ever beaten the Steelers is 2019 against Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges. Burrow's the best quarterback in the nation by a country mile. I would take Joe Burrow over Lamar Jackson every day and twice on Sundays. Steelers have the 3rd hardest strength of schedule next year. Here's the thing with that, man. Like, they were projected to have a really hard schedule this past year. But you look at things that happened with Cincinnati, where Joe Burrow gets hurt, and they don't have to worry about Joe Burrow. Everybody thought Houston was going to be bad, and Houston ends up being really good. So, like, preseason projections, I take them with a grain of salt because you don't know how good certain teams are going to be. Nobody could have expected CJ Stroud to be as great as he was in year 1. So I take those with a little bit of a grain of salt. The only games I'm really worried about, they played the Chiefs this year at home. The last time they played the Chiefs at home, Patrick Mahomes threw 6 touchdowns. He just beat the piss out of them. Games against the Chargers will be interesting because Justin Herbert's obviously very good. The interdivision games are obviously going to be a little bit tricky. They play the NFC East this year as well, so they'll play Dallas, they'll play Philadelphia, they'll play the Giants, I'm pretty sure they play the NFC. Let me just pull it up. But I'm pretty sure they play the NFC East. So they play the Commanders. Let's see, Steelers opponents 2024. That was good. The images part of this because that's easier to find. So at home, obviously they'll play Baltimore, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Yeah, they'll play Dallas at home. They play Kansas City, Chargers, Giants, Jets. Those are their home games. I think they'll beat the Giants. I think they'll at minimum split with the Ravens. I think at minimum they'll split with the Browns. I won't be surprised if the Bengals beat them twice. The Bengals are really good in my eyes. And then away, the division games, obviously. They play in Atlanta. That'll be a tough game. I think that Kirk and the Falcons will be good. They play Denver away. I won't be surprised if we get another iteration of Russ playing a former team to open the season on Monday night. And I feel like that's what they're going to do. And it's going to really annoy me because I hate when they play on Monday night, especially to open the season. That really annoys me. And then Colts, Raiders, Eagles, Commanders. So the games that I'm really worried about in there, I don't think they're going to beat Kansas City. I think Atlanta will beat them. I'm really high on Atlanta this year. And then the division games, I think at minimum they'll go 3-3 in the division. I think at best they go 4-2. I'm not too worried about Dallas. I think that Dallas got a lot worse, and they're a sitting duck team who's going to fire a bunch of people this offseason, and Dak Prescott's going to go elsewhere. We'll see with Aaron Rodgers and the Jets how good he is. The Giants are a tire fire. I don't think they're going to be doing anything. So I think that 10 wins is doable. I will get to all the comments. I promise you guys. Lamar can't beat the Steelers, so he fakes injuries and ducks them. I don't think he fakes injuries, but yeah, he's not very good against Pittsburgh. Is that official date for the schedule release? May 9th. May 9th is that's the date that's listed on NFL.com. It's May 9th. Okay, what's this? They care. Don't let them off like that. Yeah, of course. Burrow is the most injured quarterback in the AFC North. I can't put that on Joe Burrow because he's also had a lot of just not good offensive lines in front of him at different positions. The stuff with the calf was a freak thing that happened in camp. It was a non-contact thing. People were really worried that he tore his Achilles and was going to be done for the year. Plays through it. Clearly just couldn't move as well as he used to be able to. Then they got to the bye week. He was able to rest, and then they came off the bye week, and he was playing like Joe Burrow again. And again, the thing with the wrist, another freak thing that happened because I think he hit his hand on somebody's helmet, and it messed up his wrist. So it's a bunch of freak things that happen that he can't really control. I don't think he's injury prone. It's just a bunch of freak shit that happened. Broncos paid Russell Wilson $78 million to hit the bricks. Anyone thinking he is the solution is high as hell. We've seen crazier things happen, mate. Kurt Warner was once left for dead, and he led the Cardinals to the Super Bowl. Not saying that that's going to happen with Russell Wilson, but I think that there's still at least something there. I don't think he's great, but last year he was, consistently between like the 17th to 20th best quarterback in football. I think that's probably where he'll hover around this year. Can Fields beat out Wilson in camp? Yeah, he can. I mean, Mike Tomlin's reiterated a few points this offseason saying that, like, Russell Wilson is in the pole position, but Justin Fields is going to be given the chance to compete. If I had to guess how it's going to go down, Russell Wilson's going to start the season as the starter. Justin Fields will be the starter at some point this season, if I had to guess. We'll see I assume that's a comment on Cincinnati's defense. Fields couldn't even make the Bears roster. Well, because they traded him. Here's the thing with that, too. The only reason that Justin Fields isn't a Chicago Bear right now is because of the DJ Moore trade last year, in which the Panthers moved up and gave the Bears their first round pick this year. Because if they don't do that, the Bears are picking 9th, and Justin Fields is still there. The only reason that Justin Fields isn't there anymore is because they saw Caleb Williams as somebody who could be better than Justin Fields, and they felt like they had to make the move. So if they don't make that trade last year, Justin Fields is probably still there. Fields and Wilson are better than picking. Exactly. That's the thing. Steelers don't need them to be elite quarterbacks. They just need them to be average quarterbacks, which they can be. You have to have a quarterback to win in the playoffs. Yeah, no, dude, I agree on you. I agree 100% with you there. I think that they can win a playoff game if Russell Wilson or Fields is an average league quarterback, they can win a playoff game if everything else lives up to its hype. That's my point here. What wide receiver do you think they are trading for? Courtland Sutton is like my most likely option, and then Brandon Aiyuk at 2, Deebo Samuel at 3, if I had to guess. Scotty Earl, I think we'll start off earlier establishing the run game. Definitely throwing the ball, use our tight ends and running back to short passing to move the chains. Yeah, what Arthur Smith loves to do is ground and pound early, set up second and short, and then have a few instances in second and short per game where he'll go play action and launch it. If you go back and look at Ryan Tannehill's numbers from 2019 to 2020, he was a top 3 quarterback in yards off play action, passer rating off play action, touchdowns off play action. Like, they lived and died by that. And it worked. I mean, they got to the AFC Championship game one year doing it. They got to the playoffs consistently doing it. I think that at the end of the day, they just didn't quite have the quarterback to really make them serious Super Bowl contenders. So I think that the offense will work well. Yeah, I'm seeing a bunch of people comment who, the Steelers play and whatnot. We already went over that. Scotty also says, all Russell has to do is keep the defense off the field and put points on the board. Defense needs to stay fresh. Yeah, like I said, if the Steelers have average quarterback play, even like slightly below average quarterback play would be an upgrade from the god-awful tire fire fart souffle that was Kenny Pickett and Mitch Trubisky. Arthur Smith is similar to the system Russell Wilson played for in Seattle. Somewhat, yeah. Early in his career, I would say yes, where they, leaned into running the ball and whatnot and didn't ask Russ to be Superman. Yeah, I can agree with that a little bit. I believe Chicago made a mistake getting rid of Fields. Fields will win a Super Bowl. Here in Chicago, we'll take a step back. I'm not going to go as far as predicting a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh anytime soon until I know how good the quarterbacks are. We'll see. I would like to say that they will, but, like I said before, tell me how good the quarterback is. I'll tell you if you have a chance at winning a Super Bowl. Denver system did not fit Russell. I agree. Yeah, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson aren't really personality-wise as well. Like, Russell Wilson and Sean Payton just don't mix. We'll see how Bo Nix does in Denver. I feel like Sean Payton's going to be stabbing that poor boy by like day 4 of training camp. So we'll see how that goes. Sorry, I just needed to wet the old whistle. No diddy, as Gracie would say. Even Michigan system that Roman Wilson was in was similar to Arthur Smith's system. Yeah, run heavy. Didn't ask JJ McCarthy to do hardly anything. I can see the parallels there. Will Wilson be an impact wide receiver as a rookie? He'll be a starter. He's going to be their starting slot receiver, so I would say yes. It just depends on how much targets he'll get, but I think that he'll make an impact as a rookie. He's going to be starting. I think Deebo's game reminds me a lot of the way Smith used AJ Brown. Deebo type player could be special. I don't necessarily see that. AJ Brown with the Titans was more of, if you look at his numbers, he had like the most receptions of 40 plus yards downfield in the NFL in 2019. And that's because he was the guy that ran straight and caught the long balls. Deebo Samuel is much more of a give me the ball and I'll give you yards after catch by being shifty. He's not exactly a deep threat. He's very much more of a give me the ball short and I'll make things happen with the ball in my hands. But I'll keep refreshing here until we see something or get any sort of news, because I'm not seeing anything yet. Of course, I pull it up in Bird Creative, who, by the way, does a lot of really good jersey swaps for the Steelers. He tweeted out, imagine, and it's a gif of Justin Jefferson. It's not going to be Justin Jefferson, y'all. Sorry to burst your bubble. Not going to be Justin Jefferson. Nor is it going to be T. Higgins, nor is it going to be Jamar Chase. But if I had to bet on who it is, it would be Courtland Sutton. Just if I had to guess. I think that just makes the most sense. But if you have any other ideas on who it could be, absolutely feel free to keep dropping the comments in. Or if you just have any other comments on the Steelers in general, we've kind of gone over the trade ad nauseum. I'm more than okay to reiterate some of the things I've said for people who are coming in or came in late. That's fine. We could use Patterson like Deebo. I think really they're going to only use Patterson in the return game. Patterson's old. I don't think that they want to risk him getting hurt, especially with the new kickoff rule. I think they just want to use him on kickoffs. If they don't get a Deebo type guy, I think that they could use someone like Calvin Austin in that Deebo role. Maybe they could try doing that. I know a lot of people thought I was really coming down hard on Calvin Austin, so let me backtrack that a little bit. I can admit when I'm wrong about things. Looking back on it, like rewatching it, I did come down a little bit hard on Calvin Austin, which was kind of uncalled for. I was merely pointing out that I think some Steelers fans are a little bit higher on Calvin Austin than I think the Steelers would be. But if there is a role for him in the offense, it would be like a Deebo type role. But even then, I don't think he's going to be the third receiver in this offense, especially after a trade. And I still think he could be involved in a trade. But if he does make the roster, it'll be as the fourth or fifth receiver, being the punt returner. I don't think he'll necessarily see a ton of touches. They would try to utilize him as like that gadget type player. So if I had to guess, it would be more of Calvin Austin in that type of way. Crazy. I don't like Calvin Austin. I talked to Calvin Austin last year during training camp. He's a nice dude. I like him. I just don't know if he's going to really have like a ginormous role on this team. He had a few splash plays last year, like obviously the long touchdown against Las Vegas. He had a touchdown against Cincinnati. So, I mean, he's had some plays, he made a few, plays in preseason that got everybody excited. But, I think that his ceiling is being like a fine rotational receiver. I don't think he's going to be, a superstar. That's the only point I was trying to get across. It came across a little bit harsh. So I can admit when I was going a little bit too hard. What do you think about getting Daijun Edwards as an undrafted free agent running back? Yeah, out of Georgia, 5.4 yards per carry last year, a little bit less than 900 yards, 13 touchdowns on the ground. He could be the third running back. Now, Cordero Patterson is a running back, so I would be intrigued to see how they would separate that and make a roster spot for him should he make the team. But like if it came down to Daijun Edwards or Connor Hayward, I know which one I'm taking. I said this yesterday too, and people got mad. But like if Connor Hayward's last name was Smith, he wouldn't have a spot on the roster. Connor Hayward is there because he's Cam's brother. If Daijun Edwards shows out in preseason, I think the best idea would be Daijun Edwards active roster, Connor Hayward practice squad. Just my thoughts. Austin has a question mark. Still don't know how he fits the system, but speed is hard to replace. It is. And for what it's worth, Sauce Gardner said that he was the hardest player he covered in college. For anybody who was, wandering. He just has straight line speed, very little agility. Yeah, he is very fast. But here's the thing. At the NFL level, everybody's fast. you know? um, and obviously, there's a difference between being a guy who runs a 4.34 and a guy who runs a 4.54. But like, there's a lot of fast guys in the NFL. Like, if you're only fast, and especially if you're only 5'8" and fast, like there's a ceiling on how productive you can be and what your role will be. And I think his ceiling is being, a nice rotational piece that gets utilized well in an offense, but not being, a superstar number one or number two or even number three receiver, really. I think he's probably a really good number four rotational piece who is a good punt returner. I think that's his ceiling. So that's just my overall thoughts on Calvin Austin. I did want to reiterate that because, like I said yesterday, some people felt like I went a little bit too hard on Calvin Austin. Didn't mean to. I just kind of went on a rant. So my apologies for that. Trying to jar my brain of who else this trade could be, and no other names are coming to mind. I think it really is going to be one of those three. It's going to be Sutton, Aiyuk, or Deebo. So we're going to see. Did Cincinnati steal Mims from us, or are we never going to see? Or were we never going to go after Amarius Mims? I think if it came down to Troy Fautanu or Amarius Mims, Fautanu was the better pick. I'm surprised that they took Mims over Fautanu, especially because Mims has some injury questions. But I'm happy with Troy Fautanu. I would have been okay with Amarius Mims. He was the guy that was consistently getting like mocked to the Steelers. But Fautanu, the reason that he was rarely mocked to the Steelers is because he was consistently going in like the top 12. So it never really felt like much of a actual option for Troy Fautanu. But now the Steelers are the benefits of getting him at number 20 when a lot of people thought he would go, top 12, which is cool. Khan got something up his sleeve. I hope so. I mean, he's proven that he's willing to do just about anything. So we'll see. I'm excited to see what he does. I'm excited to see what it is. Again, I do think it's one of those three names that we've talked about. Because who else would it really be? Let's go. Hold on. Let's play this game. Let's go team by team. Arizona doesn't have anybody. 49ers, it's going to be, Aiyuk or Deebo. The Rams, they're not trading Puka. They're not going to trade Cooper Kupp. I don't really have anybody else. Oh, excuse me. Who else is in that division? What I miss? Seattle. DK Metcalf. Maybe. DK Metcalf for Tyler Lockett, maybe. I think the Seahawks said that they weren't planning on trading Tyler Lockett, though. I wonder if DK Metcalf could be like an under-the-radar name, because I think that Seattle's kind of in a weird spot where they're trying to transition into the future. But maybe DK Metcalf. I would still heavily bet the other three over that, but I'm just trying to think of like other names it could possibly be. So maybe DK Metcalf. So that's the NFC West. Check. NFC East. Camden Bay said seen something about DJ Chark. The only thing I push back about DJ Chark is because Bryant McFadden emphasized that it was a significant playmaker. No disrespect to DJ Chark. He's not that. He's fine, but significant playmaker, maybe in 2019, but not now. So that's why I would think it's not DJ Chark. NFC East, the Cowboys, they're not. Imagine if they traded for CeeDee Lamb. That would be something. I don't think they're going to do that. I would be over the moon if they did, but I don't think that that's what it'll be. Again, would be really cool. Would be very happy. I don't think that's what it's going to be, though. We talked about the Terry McLaurin thing being a possibility. I just don't think that they're going to do it because they just drafted Jaden Daniels. That would feel weird to me. I see Gracie asked a question. Let me get into this. Since Troy Fautanu is on the left side of a lefty quarterback, do you put him on the right side? That doesn't matter to me. What people need to understand about offensive line play, this isn't Madden, you can't just be like, okay, we'll just take this left tackle and move him to right guard and he'll still be the same. The thing that makes it hard for guys to transition is because you're used to the movements of one side and then you got to completely retrain your brain to the movements of the other side. Fautanu emphasized that he was cross-trained at Washington and every offensive lineman played every position in practice just in case something happened. So I think that they're going to move him to the right side, move Broderick to his normal side at left tackle. Even if they don't do that, though, like you can keep Broderick Jones at the right tackle because he was good at it, and keep Fatano left tackle because he's good at it. Whatever they do, I'm fine with. But if I had to guess, Broderick Jones would be left tackle, Troy Fatano would be right tackle. Did he say offensive playmaker? It was heavily implied that it was an offensive playmaker. However, like I said before, if it ends up being just they're re-signing Patrick Peterson, people are going to be pissed and very annoyed, myself included. Thought about Tyler Lockett before the draft as a trade possibility. Seattle's in cap hell too. Lockett just restructured his contract to be team friendly. Yeah, I think that Seattle, I mean, it wouldn't, that could be a fun little under the radar thing if like Metcalf or Lockett ends up being somebody who gets traded. In the NFC East, we already did the Cowboys. CeeDee Lamb will be hilarious and very fun and would instantly sell a ton of Steelers jerseys. Well, especially the, like, do you think they let him wear 88? Yeah, oh yeah. Plenty of guys worn 88 before. Darius Hayward-Bay wore 88. Yeah, never mind. We're fine. The block number 88 CeeDee Lamb jersey would go hard. Those would sell out immediately. My nose keeps fucking itching. I told you guys, every time I do a stream, like this part of my mustache gets into my nose. Walk down Willie sources. I had a source on the Courtland Sutton thing. The Courtland Sutton thing, yes. And I was told by said source that the Steelers and the Rams were the other team that reached out to the Broncos both before and during the NFL draft inquiring about Courtland Sutton. So maybe it finally gets done. Maybe the Steelers reach a deal with the 49ers on Deebo or Brandon Aiyuk. I think that those are the three names that make the most sense. Yeah, the Giants don't have anybody that would be considered a quote-unquote significant playmaker. The Eagles, they just signed both of their significant playmakers, so they're not going anywhere. NFC South. Somebody asked me on Twitter the other day about Chris Olave. That would be something. Like, that would finally be the Saints acknowledging, oh my God, we kicked this can down the road for like 8 years and we still suck. Let's just trade everybody and start over. Chris Olave would be good. Again, he hasn't been connected to the Steelers in any way whatsoever, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's off the table. But that would be fun. Chris Olave is good. The Panthers, well, they just traded Deontay Johnson to the Panthers, so nobody is coming from there. Tampa, Chris Godwin is the name that I come back to with Tampa. Nelson just threw this in the chat saying Devontae Adams. I talked about that earlier. Yeah. I think that could be like a very good under the radar one, especially because I think the Raiders are going to stink. And if you're Devontae Adams, you're 32, you'd like a chance at a ring. I don't know if the Steelers necessarily gives him the best chance at a ring, but it's better than Vegas. So I think that would be good. It's Odell Beckham. I would be a little bit annoyed if it's Odell Beckham, if I'm perfectly honest. That would be a little bit irritating to me because here's the thing. Odell Beckham was good in like 2016, and everybody ever since then has pretended that he's still that same receiver when he hasn't been that same receiver since 2019 or since 2017. He had that nice little run with the Rams on the back half of that season, but like everybody made a ginormous deal last season about, oh my goodness, where's Odell Beckham going to go? And then the Ravens outrageously overpay him to catch 37 passes. I don't want Odell Beckham Jr. to be a Steeler. Devontae Adams would be excellent. Absolutely, he would be. Absolutely. We're going to take a shot every time Gracie says no Diddy. Beckham is with the Diddy clan. I didn't know that. I don't pay attention to Odell Beckham's personal life or what he does. So we'll see. 2 Adams. Who's the other Adams? Be Devontae Adams and who would be the other Adams? I don't know what 2 Adams. I mean, it's spelled like Adams, like Atom Bomb. I don't know. I don't know what we're referring to here. Fill me in. I don't know what we're talking about. Chris Olave would be fun. Chris Godwin would be fun. The Panthers don't have anybody. Who the hell's the other team in the NFC South? Falcons. Yeah, they're not trading. I don't think they're trading Drake London. NFC North. The Lions aren't getting rid of Amon-Ra. They just paid him, and they don't have anybody else to give. The Bears, no. I don't think they're trading DJ Moore after they're keeping everything around Caleb Williams. The Packers, no. I don't think that would make sense because they don't really have like a definitive like superstar guy. They just have 4 like really solid guys. And the Vikings, it's not Justin Jefferson. And it's not going to be that. Not enough passes for 2 real good receivers who need a defensive lineman. I don't know, man. I think that people are very much overreacting to how much they think the Steelers are going to run the ball. Like, they're not only going to throw the ball like 15 times a game. It's not going to have it. That's not happening anywhere in the NFL anymore. Like, so I do this thing, especially this time of year, like I'll throw on like an old episode of NFL Primetime from like 2005. And like you see some of these quarterback stats. It's like Tim Rattay from the 49ers went 9 of 23. I'm like, oh my God. Like, you're not going to see that anymore. They're going to throw the ball more. I'd say it's going to be balanced, but I'm thinking they're going to throw the ball, 25 times a game, run it 30-ish times a game, between 25 and 30 times a game. Like, no team is going to just go exclusively run the football in the NFL. It's not going to happen anymore. YouTube, Odell Beckham and Justin Bieber, and watch pop up. I'm good. I'm quite all right. I'll pass. What about Jordan Addison? No. I don't think the Vikings are going to trade away any of their playmakers. It's same thing for the Commanders, why I don't think they're trading Terry McLaurin. They just got a rookie quarterback. They're going to do everything they can to help him come along nicely. JJ McCarthy, they just got him in Minnesota. They're going to keep all the pieces around him that they can to make sure that he has everything around him that he needs. Cannon Bay, except New England in the snow. Well, of course, yeah. Or like that Buffalo game in the wind tunnel where it was like 50-mile-an-hour winds and the Patriots only threw it 3 times. That season was so annoying because all season long I had to hear about how great Mac Jones was. And that offseason was when Baker went to Carolina and FanDuel had posted something like, oh, who would you rather have, Baker Mayfield or Mac Jones? And I said, rookie Mac Jones is the best Mac Jones is ever going to be. And look who was right. Me. What about that wide receiver from New England who actually had a good? Oh, you mean Pop Douglas? No, I'm good. Again, similar situation. Now, the Patriots did just draft 2 receivers. So Jalen Polk and Javon Baker is who they drafted. Jalen Polk from Washington, Javon Baker from UCF. They're probably going to put Kendrick Bourne in the slot now. Pop Douglas will also be somebody who rotates in and out. That's not a significant playmaker. I think it's going to be a bigger name. That's why it's going to be Sutton, Aiyuk, or Deebo, because those are all bigger names at receiver. Imagine like Jalen Waddle. I'd shit my pants. I got the notification. Jalen Waddle as a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I'd be like, oh my. That caught me way off guard. I don't know. There's a few people on Twitter right now who are like mentioning that could be Devontae Adams that I'm saying. How about that, eh? Wouldn't that be something? Of course it was Pony. I blocked Pony a long time ago. I'm mostly because. So if you don't follow me on Twitter, which by the way, if you want to follow me on Twitter at JBaileyNFL, I had to sit and listen to Pony talk about how great Kenny Pickett was for 2 years when he was horrible. And the only reason that he did that is because he went to Pitt. The exact reason why everybody else who was sucked off Kenny Pickett for 2 years, who's a Steelers fan, is because he went to Pitt. So I'm very much over Pony. I've never met him in person or talked to him, but I'm very much whatever Pony says, I just put on the back burner. Again, he probably a good dude. I don't know him personally, but his opinions on football and how obnoxious they can be, really just, I'm tired of it. Pony is saying his insider told him it's not Sutton. I trust that man about as far as I can spit. Yeah, well, again, plenty of people say things. Kaboli went on the fan. I was like, yeah, they're probably not going to draft a center. And then they took Zach Frazier. Again, I like Kaboli. Kaboli's always been nice to me in our interactions. I think he's a good dude. But again, take things with a grain of salt. And like I said, my source told me that Steelers reached out to Sutton or reached out to the Broncos about Sutton both before and during the draft. So they made multiple inquiries about it. Denver was just being stubborn and really, I think that they were just trying to play for a better deal, especially because they traded up and drafted Troy Franklin, who was Bo Nix's college teammate. What do you think about our defensive line depth this upcoming season? Yeah, I mean, I would like to see a little bit more. They drafted Logan Lee, who is incredibly athletic. So I think that Logan Lee gets a roster spot. I think DeMarvin Leal gets cut. So that's my guess on one defensive line move that gets done. DeMarvin Leal hasn't done anything since he's arrived in Pittsburgh. One could argue that he's playing out of position. So if he goes somewhere to play more of a 4-3 tech, maybe something like that would fit him better. But whatever they have him doing right now ain't working. Goodness gracious, I keep getting like these almost burps. I haven't hardly eaten anything today. Maybe it's just from talking too much. But I like the draft pick of Logan Lee. I think he'll get a roster spot. Obviously, Cam Hayward, Keanu Benton, Larry Ogunjobi, that'll be your starting front three. Watt and Highsmith off the edge. I really love Nick Herbig, man. I think he's awesome. But in terms of the interior stuff, they added Dean Lowry, who played in Minnesota last year. But they're pretty thin on the interior right now. And that's just kind of what it is. We'll see if they add like another free agent. I'd have to look and see who the free agents even are there. Because it's not something that I've paid close attention to. Tony says, I can't get over that drag route that he threw Pickens. Yeah, against Tennessee, so my buddy Matt Verderam from Sports Illustrated and Monday Morning Quarterback, I had him on after that game, actually. It's like the Tuesday afterwards for the pump fake. And he's like, by the way, I got to tell you, I do, for Sports Illustrated, I analyze a play every week. And this is the second straight week I've done a bad Steelers play. You want to guess which one it was? I was like, was it the Pickens drag route? He's like, yeah, that was bad. So, yeah, that's very much a meme now. And it's crazy to think that, like, all the dominoes that fell that really just worked out in the Steelers' favor, where Mason Rudolph comes in and just balls out. Kenny Pickett refuses to dress as his backup, throwing a little bit of a hissy fit. And then he throws another pissy fit when they acquire Russell Wilson. And they're like, all right, just get the hell out, which is great. Pony and Dulac and Cabal. Like I said, I've never met Pony. Have I met? Yeah, I've met Jerry Dulac. He's always been nice to me. I like Jerry Dulac and Mark Caboli. He's been nice to me. We were just standing on the sideline together in Latrobe for a little bit, just sweating our asses off. And that was the first time I had met him. I just introduced myself, and he's a cool dude to talk to. So I got nothing against any of those dudes personally. Pony's opinions are mostly stupid. But I've talked to Jerry Dulac a little bit. I'm not going to pretend to really know him. We've been in like the press room at the same time, but nothing crazy. Talked to Caboli a little bit. Seems like a nice dude. So I don't have anything against them as people. So on Insider say Sutton is locked in. No source though. I haven't seen anything about it. Then again, I've been doing this for an hour and a half, so I'm not entirely sure what the word is here. Let's see if we can. I'll search Cam Sutton real quick and see if anything's been said about Cam Sutton. If I get fucking tight. Cam Sutton. Yeah, nothing that I'm seeing in terms of any like breaking that they're signing him or anything like that. Yeah, I'm not nothing there concrete right now, at least that I'm seeing. Again, it's a possibility. Again, I liked the pickup of Beanie Bishop as an undrafted free agent from West Virginia. I think that this could be very similar to Mike Hilton going undrafted and then coming in and being a really big impact player. Again, if you don't know much about Beanie Bishop, consensus All-American this past year. And if you want to know, well, what's the difference between an All-American and a consensus All-American? So he didn't make the All-American team. What a consensus All-American is that the majority of people who vote for the All-American team had him on the team. It's just the amount of votes and total points and everything, he got left off the team because of like the point system. So most people who vote for the All-American team had him on the team. That's what consensus All-American is. Led the nation in passes broken up, had 4 interceptions. I think that he makes the team and is the starting nickel. That's just my guess. Logan Lee has a motor. Yeah, he has his real athletic score, which, by the way, day 3, it's all about, all right, who are the most athletic people available? Let's get them and see what they can do. Logan Lee's real athletic score, I think, was 9.92 out of 10. So he's a fucking tank. So I'm excited to watch him. Peyton Wilson was a steal in my opinion. What do you think? Yeah, he's going to be a baller. Luke Kuechly was talking on Up and Adams, and he said that he loves watching Logan Wilson, and they put up that like comparison of him. He's like, yeah, look at that. He's taller than me, faster than me. He was just really just singing his praises. So when I was in Mobile for the Senior Bowl, more than one person said Logan Wilson's the smartest guy here in terms of like football IQ. So I'm happy that they got him. I didn't think that that was ever a possibility, so I didn't really like think much about him. But when they once like it got to like pick 87, it's like, oh, Peyton Wilson's still there. That'd be cool if he kept falling. And like pick 94, you're like, holy shit, he might get there. And I think the Browns picked before the Steelers and didn't take, or was it the Buccaneers? One of those two drafted at 97, didn't take him, and the Steelers did. I see Fatano going to right tackle and bouncing Jones back to left. I think so. I think that's probably the better idea. Broderick Jones is a natural left tackle. Fatanu can, move all over the offensive line. So I think that that's probably what they'll do. Pony's extremely arrogant. I don't listen to him, man. Like I said, and again, I don't want to talk shit on him as a person because I don't know him as a human being. But yeah, like I said, on Twitter, I blocked him a long time ago just because I was tired of all the Kenny Pickett dick riding. And I was very happy. And by the way, so when that happened, for about a 72-hour period, I was an insufferable prick about it. I kept so many receipts. And I was just quoting them with the, that video of the Joker laughing in an episode of Justice League where he's like covering his eyes, just laughing really hard. I probably tweeted that video, no lie, 30 times, just off all the receipts I kept about from all these Kenny Pickett fanboys. And it felt really good. Big on Beanie, a punt return specialist plus a ball hawk. Yeah, I think he'll make the team. Did that thing again where it right clicks. John Reese Plumlee was actually pretty interesting. Dude, I'm excited about that. At worst case scenario, he'll be fun to watch in the preseason and in training camp. I think that's worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that, they see him as like a better fit for the offense as a backup quarterback, and he beats out Kyle Allen for the third string job. So, or they just transition him to receiver and see what he can do. But I would like them to keep him at quarterback just for the fun in the preseason and in camp, because I think that he can at least just be a fun guy who runs around and makes some plays. Surprising how many quality slot corners were undrafted free agents. Yeah, and the reason because of that was now you need a nickel guy because most teams' base defense is a nickel look. But before, like, if you could only play nickel, guys wanted you to be able to play outside. So if you could only do one thing, you got overlooked. Oh, my God. There we go. Mason McCormick really, really intrigues me. I think he's a starter next year. I think that they're going to let James Daniels walk, and then they'll naturally have McCormick there in the waiting. What would you think about McLaurin? I would love it. I would think it's really awesome, but I don't think that that's the thing that's going to happen just because they just drafted Jaden Daniels, and I think that they want to surround him with as much talent as possible. Tracy says, McCormick was a really good value pick. If you saw that video that he tweeted out, it's like a hype video of himself, and it's got like Motley Crue playing in the background. It's just a video of him just shitting on dudes, throwing them all over the field. And he's like got both elbow pads, a neck roll, 2 knee braces. I'm like, all right, yeah, this dude's here to fuck shit up. Yeah, I'm a fan. Take a guess who will be the number 2 receiver week 1. I think George Pickens will be the number 2 receiver week 1. I think that Courtland Sutton will be 1A, Pickens will be 1B, and then Roman Wilson will be in the slot. If I had to pick which one I would like, I like Courtland Sutton. I'd prefer Brandon Aiyuk to be the 1, Pickens to be the 2, Roman Wilson to be the 3 or the slot. Was hoping Daquan Hardy at 195, but Beanie looks like he has a real chance to make an impact. Yeah, I think that like I said, I think he's going to be the starter. That'll be my bold prediction on April 29th, 3 months before camp starts. Is that Beanie Bishop will be a guy who makes the roster as the nickel corner. Plumlee reminds me of Antoine Randall. Yeah, like I said, he's very athletic. He's got 45 total touchdowns over the past 2 years. He's pretty cool. Pretty cute. Who do we think the significant playmaker is? If I had to guess, Courtland Sutton. Second would be Brandon Aiyuk. Third would be Deebo. Brad, my guy. What's all this trade smoke? So Bryant McFadden, Brad, tweeted out that Omar Khan is cooking and that the Steelers are about to acquire a significant playmaker. Bryant McFadden used to play cornerback for the Steelers, now an analyst for CBS Sports. Nothing's come of it yet. So I've just been chilling here waiting. So we'll see. Like I had a source tell me, and for this is purely for my guy Brad if he didn't see it, but I had a source tell me that the Steelers reached out to Denver both before and during the NFL draft inquiring about Courtland Sutton. So that's why I think the most likely option is Courtland Sutton, just because they reached out more than once. They apparently also tried to trade for Deebo, but the 49ers wanted too much for him. Maybe that price went down. I don't know. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall. I mean, Brad knows. Brad, by the way, if you don't follow Brad, SF Niners, I think that's the right handle, right, Brad? Let me not butcher that so people can follow Brad's stuff, because he's absolutely one of the best. So on Twitter, it's Graham_SFN. Tremendous 49ers content. Go follow Brad. Absolutely one of the best dudes. And every time we're in Indy and stay together, it's a lot of fun. Great stuff. I think Roman could play some Z too. Yeah, he's slot and outside versatile. He was predominantly a slot guy at Michigan, but he also played on the perimeter, so it's possible. Sutton makes sense. I agree. And him and Russell Wilson have a really good relationship. He had a career high 10 touchdown receptions last year with Russ. I think that it makes sense on a lot of different fronts, where it would just be weird to not see it happen at that point. Absolutely, buddy. Yeah, I miss you and your beautiful long red locks and your big orange beard. It's getting me hyped up just thinking about you. Higgins is a rival. It's not happening. I agree. And look, I don't blame fans for putting, these pipe dreams together. Like, it's normal to want T. Higgins. It's normal to want Justin Jefferson, but it's not realistic. I just don't see either of those happening. It's going to be Sutton, Aiyuk, or Deebo, if I had to guess. Devontae Adams is a solid number 4 at this point. I think Devontae Adams is like realistic, but like very slim. Would be fun. I don't know what they'd have to give up for him, because he's 32. So like that's one thing that would go against the Raiders with a Devontae Adams trade. Is like, yeah, he's still good, but he's 32. They're not trading for 28-year-old Devontae Adams. So, and Brad knows all about this. Have the money to pay Aiyuk? Yes, they do. They're projected to have about $85 million in cap space next year. Not paying a quarterback. So they've got the money. They absolutely have the money to do it. And the thing that I keep coming back to is that the day before the draft, they restructured Alex Highsmith's deal to free up $7 million in cap space, which took them to $18 million in total cap. Aiyuk's cap hit this year is about 14.1, and Sutton's is 17.4. They still have to sign their draft class, but they can restructure TJ Watt's deal or Minkah Fitzpatrick's deal to make a little bit more room. But they didn't just make that room for nothing. That was absolutely a calculated thing where they wanted to get a receiver. It can be Justin. No, it cannot. With all due respect, it's not going to be Justin Jefferson. Unless they offer like their next 9 first-round picks or something stupid, it's not going to be Justin Jefferson. Like I said, I'll do the one chip challenge if it ends up being Justin Jefferson. You can watch me suffer and eat my words if it's Justin Jefferson. It will not be him. What's Justin Jefferson's cap hit? Well, he hasn't got paid yet. And he's going to garner absolute minimum $30 million a year. He's going to get at least what Amon-Ra got. He's probably going to get more. Probably going to get between 32 and 34. Let's just see how it could look, bro. Cap space wise, like I said, he hasn't got paid yet, but Justin Jefferson's going to garner minimum $32 million, I'd say. 33. So that's 33 a year. And look, could they do it? Yes, of course they can. Are they? The Vikings are going to hear that and laugh and hang up. And you're like, hey, we want to trade for Justin Jefferson. They're going to say, that sucks. And hang up immediately. I can imagine, that's how I would be as a GM. Just be like, the Commanders, hello? Justin Jefferson, go fuck yourself. All right. Not exactly like that, but you get the point. But Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, yeah, those are pipe dreams that unfortunately will not be coming true. Devontae Adams could, though. And he's still good. Ooh, bump the mic. Still good. But they could use that against the Raiders and be like, look, he's 32. We're not going to give you like a first round pick for 32-year-old Devontae. We'll give you, I would do a second round pick for Devontae Adams. Absolutely. Like a second, a fifth. And they can have both sevens from Philadelphia too. That's fine. C'est la vie. I would do it. I would do that in a heartbeat. They don't sign a guy like Shark or trade for Sutton, I'm not that interested. Deebo's not someone I want either. Yeah, the fan base seems to be a little bit split on the Deebo Samuel thing. He's good, obviously, but he's very good at being a versatile guy, not necessarily just a pure receiver. That's the thing with him. Sutton makes the most sense. Devontae is most intriguing. Deebo's a great fit. Yeah, if they utilize Deebo as that versatile running back receiver hybrid, absolutely. Devontae, now that I keep talking about Devontae Adams, I want it to be Devontae Adams. Someone get me a Devontae Adams Steelers jersey swap stat. I would love it to be Devontae Adams. I keep refreshing. Nothing's coming of it. Crazy. Nice concepts. What's up, Jared? Even though highly unlikely, I'm still holding out hope for Aiyuk in the Burg. I don't think it's highly unlikely. I think that's one of the three most likely guys. I think Sutton, Aiyuk, and Deebo, the three most likely. God damn it. If I do that again. We need Sutton, Adams, or Boyd. Tyler Boyd, 0%. They have Roman Wilson. That once they drafted Roman Wilson, Tyler Boyd just doesn't make sense because he's a slot guy. Roman Wilson's going to be the slot guy. There's no need. Same reason why Hunter Renfrow doesn't make sense is because he's a slot guy. Roman Wilson's going to be the slot guy. Tyler Boyd just doesn't make sense anymore. If you trade Aiyuk for our 2025 first, yep. Without hesitating, absolutely. Because even if the Steelers like end up needing a quarterback next year, the quarterback class next year isn't good. And Carson Beck's going to be the one, but we know the Steelers aren't going to be good enough for a Carson Beck. And do we really want them to go down the road of reaching for a quarterback in the first round again? No. I would, without hesitation, if the 49ers said, we want your 2025 first for Brandon Aiyuk, I'd fly him to Pittsburgh myself. Do you think Roman Wilson can turn into a true number 2 wide receiver? Yeah, maybe. I'm not going to pretend to be like a complete Roman Wilson expert. I'm a big Big Ten guy because I'm a Penn State fan, so I watched him enough, and I liked what I saw. But you guys got to remember, Amon-Ra St. Brown is the Lions' true number 1 receiver, but he's purely a slot receiver. Cooper Kupp is mostly a slot receiver. Puka Nacua, they put him in the slot a lot as well. Like, you can be, number 1, number 2, and be a slot guy. It's not completely unheard of. The Lions were a quarter away from winning the Super Bowl last year without a real outside threat. Josh Reynolds was their predominant outside boundary guy. Jameson Williams was the other guy on the outside, but he was mostly just utilized for speed over the middle. He wasn't, they didn't really have an outside threat last year. So it can be done. It's not ideal. And the Steelers would absolutely like to get somebody on the outside, but it can be done, Glad you said that. I need an Aiyuk Steelers jersey and be a perfect fit. Yeah, he would. You can reuse those Chase Claypool jerseys you still got. Just get some black tape, yellow marker. Why? You don't think he was limited with T and Chase? I'm sure he was a little bit, but again, at this point in his career, it looked like he lost a step a little bit last year as well down the stretch. I don't see a point in signing Tyler Boyd at this point after you drafted Roman Wilson to be the slot guy. If they were going to sign Tyler Boyd, it was more than likely just going to be what his role was in Cincinnati, which is put him in the slot. He would have had a more upgraded role from being in Cincinnati, obviously, but he was still going to be a slot guy. But now you have Roman Wilson, so you don't need that. Yeah, Aiyuk's great. I love Brandon Aiyuk. He's very good. AB's crazy ass is saying it's Adams. Oh, is he? Did we get a CT ESPN bomb? Hold on. By the way, can we get a batting average on how often CT ESPN is right? He also tweeted out a picture of Mike Wallace 42 minutes ago. I'm very confused. Yeah, so 2 hours ago, why This is what my life has come to. I'm analyzing CT ESPN. I went to journalism school, damn it. So the CT ESPN thing said that hearing a big name wide receiver, he tweeted that right around the same time Bryant McFadden did, though. So we'll see. But 42 minutes ago, the account tweeted the picture of Mike Wallace doing like this pose. I don't know why. This is so dumb. All right, there's a lot of comments here. Hold on. Boyd benefited from having Chase and Higgins. I'll say this: Tyler Boyd was nice before either of them arrived. I was always a big Tyler Boyd guy. He's just getting a little bit older, you know. If it's for a first-round pick, I want Hufanga. Dude, respectfully, they already have a superstar receiver or a superstar safety. And how do I want to put this? You are much more likely to become like taking a next step toward being a Super Bowl contender with Brandon Aiyuk than you are Hufanga. Because like Minkah Fitzpatrick's been great for the Steelers. They haven't won a playoff game. Justin Simmons has been great for the Broncos, haven't made the playoffs. Like a superstar safety and a superstar receiver aren't on the same level of importance. Matt Williamson mentioned Adams last week. Contract and trade value seem like a hard negotiation to get. I think the Steelers expect Roman to be a 3 like Juju and hope he can become a second or number 2 down the road. Yeah, the more I talk about Devontae Adams, the more I want it. I think that would be really fun. And like it would be like that most random jersey that people have in like 10 years. Like, oh yeah, Devontae Adams was a Steeler. I saw, shit you not, 2 years ago at the preseason opener against Seattle, I saw someone wearing a Jericho Cotchery Steelers jersey, and that made my day. It was great. Let's see. If we get Adams, I bet Khan would want the Raiders to eat some. They absolutely would eat some of his contract. They aren't taking all of that. Which is why I think the Raiders would be like, tell you what, we'll eat a good portion of it if you give us a second-round pick. And I think the Steelers would be like, fair enough. We'll do that. Oh, Christ, more. CT ESPN is the truth. AB will be the next commissioner. We're doomed if that happens, folks. That man is a few pennies shy of $1. Deebo coming to Pittsburgh. Again, I'm refreshing. I'm hoping. We'll see. I'm hoping that something happens. It'd be nice if it happened while we're on air. That would be pretty rad. But again, yeah, not seeing anything right now in terms of guys that are no one's saying anything. But yeah, CT ESPN did tweet that picture of Mike Wallace. That's the most quote unquote update we have on this thing. I feel so bad for AB. We can all admit he was chasing 80. Look, if you look at the numbers and whatnot, like I don't think anybody's ever catching Jerry Rice in terms of all that. But for like a 5-year stretch, he was unquestionably the best receiver in football, and I loved watching him. So I wish that things had gone differently. Absolutely. And genuinely, like I know we joke about the CT ESPN stuff. I hope that he's okay mentally. That's the biggest thing. Hope his family's good. Hope he's good. Hope he's okay. I would take Ward over Hufanga. What Ward are we referring to? Travarius Ward? Like, oh, the outside corner? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for need, I guess. Travarius Ward's good. I'd be cool with that. They ain't trading like a first-round pick for him, obviously, but Simmons over Hufanga if you want to upgrade at safety, but not a need. Yeah, they don't really need to. And look, you have Minkah Fitzpatrick. I would much rather see them reach out to somebody like Terrell Edmonds and bring him back on a cheap 1 or 2 year deal than, I mean, look, they're not going to trade for Hufanga, but if we're talking about Simmons or, somebody else, I wouldn't mind them reaching out to Terrell Edmonds and seeing if that can get done, because Terrell Edmonds is really good in this defense. And he's still on the market. Is there any way it could be a corner and not a wide receiver? Maybe. I think it's a receiver, though, if I had to guess. All right, hey, why are we throwing? I got to throw shade out here. What are we doing now? Come on. I'm not disrespecting the man. I'm just saying. He's very clearly had a sketched up past few years. like I don't pretend to be like a quote, like being like an insider was never like my type of game. I just happened to have somebody close to the situation who I knew I could get information from, and it happened that I got the information. I'm not somebody who chases down too many stories. I'm very much more a, I write about football. I'll do the podcast stuff. But if, there's a situation where I'm, tight with somebody who has the information, then yeah, I'll get it. But I'm not somebody who chases down, the insider stuff. That's never been I never wanted to be Adam Schefter, But like I said, if there's a chance where I can get, sourced information, absolutely, I'll do it. Yeah, man. I wonder if the Bears would trade. They're not trading Roma Dunze. They literally just drafted his ass. Jared, what's up, my guy? Step out for a little bit and all this potential new addition. Let's hope it's worth it. I hope so. If Bryant McFadden tweeted, like, got us all excited and it ends up just being Patrick Peterson's coming back, gonna be angry. Mr. Rooney said, get it done. Is that just like you saying that, or did like Art Rudy just like call something and be like, you know what, we're gonna do this? And just continuing to refresh, hoping something happens. Doesn't look like anything's happening. This is gonna be something that happens at like midnight tonight, and it's gonna really irritate me. Because if it does, I'll go live. I ain't gonna be doing anything else. I'll be up watching Justice League Unlimited, watching cartoons, eating oatmeal. I need a wide receiver trade to happen. Yep, I agree, very much so. Mark says, amen. Terrell Edmonds. Yeah, I'd be totally cool if they brought back Terrell Edmonds. That makes perfect sense. Cam Sutton. Yeah, might as well just get the 2021 secondary back together. Let's just reunite them. Patrick Surtain. I mean, I'm not going to say it's a 0% chance. I don't know. I don't have any sort of like information on that. It'd be cool. I'd rather it be a receiver personally, if I'm being like completely honest. But if I honestly like if the notification came, the Steelers should trade for Patrick Surtain, I wouldn't be mad. I'd be pretty hyped. But I'd if you gave me the choice, Pat Surtain or Brandon Aiyuk, I would choose Brandon Aiyuk. He definitely has some insiders. Oh yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm sure he's got plenty of people around the league that he still talks to and whatnot. You know what I mean? Appreciate you, Jared, for providing some awesome content and being football first. Remember, they always hate the greats. Oh yeah, and I think it was Corey that said that. I'm sure it was all in good fun. I didn't take it as like a personal jab. Yeah, like I said, being like the Schefter type was never like what I got into the business for. I got into it to write, tell good stories, do good podcasts and stuff of that nature. And like I said, if I'm in a position where I know I can get information from somebody, absolutely I'll do it. But my goal was not to be, Rappaport or Schefter. Adam Schefter on Pat McAfee's show said Steelers are still trying to get the Aiyuk deal done. Maybe it's Aiyuk. I'm cool if it is. By the way, so I need a few more helmets. I'm going to put 2 here. I'm going to move these suckers up so I can have more room for them. I think the next 2 I'm going to get, they're all throwback helmets too, by the way. The Steelers don't really have, I don't like the yellow helmet. Sorry. I think I like when they wear them, but I didn't want it on my wall. But I try to do like the 90s aesthetic. So I think I'm going to get the 90s Vikings one, like the all purple one to put right here. And then I'm going to get like that navy blue Chargers one from like the 80s and put right there. What other helmets should I get? You guys can tell me. It's AB. Yeah, wouldn't that be something? That would be funny and just deranged. Besides, if we're going for a draft pick this year at wide receiver, let's ask the Niners about Slick Rick. Yeah, anyway, Slick Rick. So I saw somebody called Ricky Pearsall Yak Harlow, and that made me laugh really hard. I thought that was pretty creative and funny. Yak Harlow. Who makes more sense for us to get, Aiyuk or Samuel? Aiyuk. Aiyuk's the better receiver. But Samuel would also be a good fit if they really take advantage of his, running back wide receiver stuff. If we get Aiyuk, it will break the internet, especially me, because I got a lot of friends who are 49ers media, and I'm going to give them hell. You saw Brad in the chat earlier. He's one of the more better 49ers media dudes. I love him very much. but I'm going to give him hell. I'm going to give my boy Jason Aponte hell. All of them. I'm going to have to mute my ass. It'll be a lot of fun. They just picked up Surtain's fifth-year option. That doesn't mean that they won't trade him. I've seen that plenty of times where guys get their option picked up and they get moved. I'm jumping out my window if we sign Aiyuk. First floor, but still counts. Hey, well, good for you. Be safe. Keyshawn, how you doing? Love the draft picks, but what's your take on defensive tackle Lee with Troy Franklin, another sitting there? I'm cool with it. I don't think they didn't take Logan Lee when Troy Franklin was still on the board. They took Logan Lee in the 6th round. They took Mason McCormick. But even then, I think that Franklin was off the board before McCormick. Logan Lee's incredibly athletic. I think they're going to play him at defensive end. But even then, they play like with a 3-down lineman thing. So even then, like he's still like a quote unquote interior guy because Watt and Highsmith are coming off the end. So they needed more guys there, man. And Logan Lee's incredibly athletic. And again, when on day 3, you just look for athletes to fill those holes. And if it pans out, it pans out. But that was very much just, we needed depth. We took some depth. That was their mind, their way of thinking, I think. Man, you're doing great. Fuck the haters. Oh, I appreciate it. No. And again, I didn't take what Corey said personally. I think he was just joking. But I appreciate it very much. And by the way, this will be a perfect time for me to say, if you're not subscribed to the channel, absolutely would love if you did. And if you want extra content, I just launched up the membership portion of this. It's called the Pump Fake Plus. The Pump Fake is the name of my national podcast that I do twice a week. The newest episode is out today. What the membership gives you is when I have players on or any other media on who join me once a week for the Pump Fake, you guys can submit questions that you want asked. I'll do member-only shows as well, member-only Q&As, things of that nature. $2.99 a month, that's the cheapest one I can make it. If that's something that you would be interested in having from me, absolutely, that would make me very happy. If not, don't worry about it. They gave me the option to set it up, so I set it up. So if it's something that you'd be interested in, absolutely, awesome. If not, I'm not going to cut back on the content, so don't worry. It's just your way of getting extra content. And if you have any ideas of stuff that you would want for extra content, let me know, because it only makes sense to do it if it's what you guys want, because you'd be paying for the extra content. So if there's any ideas that you have on stuff you'd want me to do, absolutely let me know. I think he's saying it's just I'm trying to see what that would be in response to, but I honestly don't know. Get the Houston Oilers helmet is what Gracie said. Oh, I've got a Houston Oilers helmet right here. It's the 60s one. Yeah, I got an Oilers one. Don't worry. That's one of the first ones I got, actually, because I really liked it. Now to compete the 2024 Steelers, we need to repeat the Wilson philosophy and re-sign Cam Sutton and trade a 2025 6th-round pick for Courtland Sutton. Yeah, just keep getting dudes with the same last names. Eventually, it'll work out. Bring back Eric Rowe and Marcus Golden. I wouldn't mind bringing back Marcus Golden because he ruled last year. Like, he had a few games where he was just really, really good. Wouldn't mind Eric Rowe bringing him back either. I said it yesterday, though. If they bring back Eric Rowe, I think they get rid of DeMonte Casey, which, okay. DeMonte Casey, I don't have anything against him personally. I just don't think he's all that great. Not getting Jay Jettas, yeah, that's very much out of the question. Oh, my goodness. Ugh. Isn't Deebo more of a slot, or does he play outside a lot too? They move him around. Yeah, he played on the perimeter as well as in the slot, in the backfield. They moved him all over the place. What if it's Sauce? Wouldn't that be something? Definitely don't think it is, because I don't think the Jets are stupid enough to move him. But that would be funny. If you have haters, you're doing something right. Yeah, I agree. Again, I don't think that he was necessarily a quote-unquote hater. At least I hope he wasn't. How about Devontae Adams? Yeah, we talked about it a few times. I think that that's definitely a possibility. I think that would be cool. Franklin was gone beginning of 5th or 4th round. He was beginning of the 4th round. I think he went like pick 107. Yeah. And the Steelers took McCormick at 119. Who do you believe the 5 starters will be on the offensive line? From left to right, Broderick Jones, Isaac Smalo, Zach Frazier, James Daniels, Troy Fatanu. That would be my guess of the starting lineup. I think Deshaun Elliott is better than Edmonds. I think they do different things. Edmonds is much better as a much better coverage guy. Deshaun Elliott is a fine coverage guy, but he's better at hopping up in the box and being a run support guy. Edmonds was fine at that too. When they go 3 safety sets, though, I would love nothing more than to have a 3 safety set of Minkah, Edmonds, and Deshaun Elliott. I think that just makes sense. I think both of them are better than Casey, is kind of what I'm getting at. Edmonds is better than DeMonte Casey. I'm not going to lie. I really wanted Tampa over McCormick. Yeah, having TJ Tampa go to Baltimore was kind of a bummer. And of course, it would happen where the Ravens just get him in the 4th round. That was annoying. I agree. One big-time receiver away and will be a problem. Again, I'd like to think that too, but tell me how good the quarterbacks are. That's what it all comes down to at the end of the day. Like, I don't care how good the rest of the roster is. If the quarterbacks are bad, I mean, hell, we've seen it the past few years where the defense has been awesome and they've had, young playmakers on offense. The offensive line had its issues, but for the most part, they had a really nice roster, and Kenny Pickett was horrible. So, but if you said that, like I did, you'd have KP8 the GOAT with a Kenny Pickett pit avatar come at you. He's the greatest. You know what you're talking about. I hated those people so much, man. I'm so glad I don't have to deal with them anymore. By the way, that like week 4, if Jalen Hurts has a bad game, if there was like 2 picks, all those Kenny Pickett stands that were living in the Steelers Twitter mentions are going to be in Philadelphia. Like, put in Kenny Pickett. Put him in. That's going to be really funny. Oh, I hate them. Steelers will now bring a $30 million wide receiver. But they should. They absolutely should. Because that's how getting great players is how you win. And you also got to remember, this isn't your father's Pittsburgh Steelers. This isn't, not doing anything in free agency. This isn't not trading for guys. Omar Khan has very much shown that he's doing things his way, not Kevin Colbert's way. Andy Weidel, too. He deserves a lot of credit for how they've done things differently as well. This is the Omar Khan era. Kind of like in WWE, where they're in the Triple H era. Pittsburgh's in the Omar Khan era. Things aren't going to be done the same way they've always been done. They've very much proven, hey, we've gone 7 years without a playoff win. We'll do things differently if it means we get back to winning games that matter. All right. He's great, but it wouldn't upset the apple cart, man. That wouldn't. Guys understand that when great players come in, they're going to make money. It's a business. It's how it works, It's not going to upset anybody. If you want to get paid really well, then be a better player. That's my thoughts on it. Any more Wilsons available? I don't think so. I don't think there's. Pretty sure there's not. None that come to mind. If they trade for Garrett Wilson, I don't think they're trading for Garrett Wilson, by the way. I think that the Jets are holding on to him. Edmonds allows Minkah to be Minkah. Yeah, I think a lot of their moves allow Minkah to be Minkah. If they need somebody to hop up at safety to help against the run, they got Deshaun Elliott. If they need somebody they needed somebody to help patrol the middle, they now have Peyton Wilson and Patrick Queen. Minkah can kind of just sit back and play, watch the quarterback's eyes from center field. Will Fatanu and Broderick both compete for left tackle. Best man wins each spot. Maybe. I don't know what they're going to do with that, honestly. But I'd be really upset if Dan Moore starts over one of them. That just doesn't make sense. Because Dan Moore's not good. In past years, it's taken like half the season for the offensive line to gel. Learning Pat Meyer's desired technique is an adjustment. Do you see that happening this year with 2 rookies, one playing a new position? Not really, because Broderick came in and immediately showed, oh, okay, he's pretty good. Fatanu's a guy that can come in and immediately be very good too. I think that if you're a good player, you overcome, any sort of coaching shortcomings. Because we've seen plenty of players play under bad coaches that end up thriving. So I'm not necessarily worried about that. They still need to fire Pat Meyer because he's not a good coach, but I wish that would have been part of the the house cleaning this offseason, but nevertheless. I called him COVID Kenny. He's social distancing from the end zone. Yeah, he stunk. Kenny who? Oh, you mean Lenny Whippet. Lenny Whippet. Yeah, it's not good. It's not good. That's the price now. Price on what? Are we talking receivers? I mean, if you get Brandon Aiyuk, you're paying him between, I'd say you're paying Aiyuk between like minimum like 26, maximum like 30, 31. You're paying him a lot of money. New wave. I don't know what my man A here just keeps saying some stuff. I don't know what you're referring to. I'd like to know. Oh, you mean like new wave Steelers? Yeah. They're doing things differently. You're right. Absolutely. Omar Khan saying enough with this bullshit. We're doing things my way. DK Metcalf would be my dream. Yeah. Keyshawn saying, bro, DK, yeah. I could see it happening too, because Seattle's in a weird spot as a franchise where they're like trying to transition more toward the future. We'll see. I still think the most likely options are either Sutton, Aiyuk, or Deebo. So we'll see. My boy Derek Bell from Steelers Now gave his opinion via a tweet saying, Deebo is super interesting to me because I think he's a great fit for Arthur Smith's offense, but it doesn't really solve what they're missing in the receiver room. Yeah, that's what I've been saying the entire time. It's like you still have a need at X receiver if you get Deebo Samuel. So that's why I'd rather see them get Sutton or Aiyuk. Absolutely. George Pickens hasn't earned a top deal yet, so that should be zero concern. Pickens also has 2 years left as well. Aiyuk would be helping George Pickens stealing coverage from, yeah. And look, the Eagles just proved that you can pay 2 receivers while paying a quarterback. They just did it. So it's not impossible. Oh my goodness. All right. I'm going to begin wrapping this up because I've been doing this for 2 hours and didn't expect that. But thank you guys so much. This has been consistently, 870 of you just kind of chilling in here. That's really nice. And I very much appreciate it. So if you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do that. And if you want, some last minute comments to get in here, absolutely, you can. If you want me to do this daily, by the way, if we do this daily, can't go 2 hours. I don't have it in me, man. That would be a lot. But we can do like between hour shows every day. That's fine. So if this becomes a daily thing, and you want it to be a daily thing, we can do that. But don't expect 2 hours from me a day. I say that now, but if Cowherd can do 3 hours a day, why can't I do 2? But also got to remember writing assignments and everything like that, full-time writing, that's the main gig. But I will do this daily should it be what the people want. So I see a bunch of last-minute comments coming in, so let's get to them. Media asked Tomlin Khan after the Troy pick which side he'd play. Tomlin said, ask us tomorrow. No one in the media asked him again in the press conference after the draft. I think that him saying ask us tomorrow was more of like, we'll figure it out in the future. So we'll see in training camp, Omar is definitely his own man. Not saying that, but he still hasn't shown that he's willing to spend that much money. Last year, he brought in plenty of players, but value players, no high-priced talent. Well, at the same time, you also got to look at, the positions of need that they would have, like the big positions of need, like edge rusher, they already have one that they're paying a ton of money to. Safety, they already have one that they're paying a lot of money to. And then this year, like he brought in Patrick Queen. That was a big fish to land. And Patrick Queen is the highest paid outside, like exterior brought in Steelers free agent signing in history. So, he's showing that he's not afraid to cough up the money for guys. And I think that we'll continue to see that. What's the talent gap between Sutton and Aiyuk? I think Aiyuk is a top 10 receiver. I think Sutton is top 20, 25. I think it's reasonable. Like, it's reasonable enough to know that I would rather have Aiyuk because he's better at gaining natural separation. He's a better route runner, but can do all the stuff deep that you want him to do too. But Sutton's still very good. They've always paid their own. Yeah, they do. But again, new era. I hate the Bills. Gave the Chiefs another Super Bowl. I didn't love the Bills helping the Chiefs get somebody who they clearly wanted either. But again, as I said before, there's lots of fast guys in the league. Xavier Worthy is also very small. So I'm not too like overstressed about it. 24/7 streams. Unfortunately not. But if you want more of my work, you can read my written work, USA Today for Touchdown Wire, Behind the Steel Curtain, which is all the Steelers coverage. So keep that in mind if you want more of me from a written standpoint. Keep up the great work. Appreciate that. I appreciate you guys. Yeah, no, this is all very nice of you to say that. Omar getting Patrick Queen was insane and highly underrated. King Khan. That's a good one. I haven't heard that, and that's a good little nickname. I like that one. Yeah. They paid Patrick Queen more than any outsider free agent than they ever have. So they clearly liked him. Aiyuk better than Deontay Johnson. Yes, he is. Very much so. Speaking of Bills, Josh Allen was robbed of MVP. Yes, he was. So Josh Allen's my favorite player in the league. And any chance I get to write about him or do something involved with him, I usually do. And my friend Aaron Schatz, who was the one MVP voter who did not vote for Lamar Jackson and voted for Josh Allen, got so much shit for it. And it was so dumb. But for my Pro Football Writers of America ballot that we do every year for the Pro Football Writers of America awards, I voted for Josh Allen, in case anybody wanted my 2 cents on that. No, Josh Allen's awesome. My favorite player for a reason. I understand why you didn't read any comment, but I really like how you read most of people watching. Yeah, I try to get to them all. Some of them, are repetitive and just have, I can't get to necessarily all of them, but I try to get to 99% of them. Fields beats out Russ in camp. Jeff Darlington thinks so. ESPN, he definitely thinks that that's going to happen. It wouldn't surprise me. I think that Tomlin wants Fields to win the job, because I think that he would like to know that he has a 25-year-old quarterback that could potentially be the future. That's just my 2 cents on it. I want Fields to win the job. I like Russ, but I would rather see Fields out there, personally. All right, y'all. I'm gonna go make food, and but I'll do this again tomorrow. There's other things I do want to talk about tomorrow. We're going to dive into more Peyton Wilson stuff because Luke Kuechly talked about him today. We're going to talk about some comments Jaylen Warren made at Cam Hayward's live show. Roman Wilson also appeared and talked a little bit. And we'll dive into more of the Russ versus Justin Fields stuff. So please, if you're not already, like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff. And if you want extra content, become a member of Pump Fake Plus. It's $2.99 a month. And if you have any ideas what you would want for extra content, feel free to let me know, and we'll get all of that stuff up and running very soon. So I appreciate you guys for tuning in. As always, I'll see you tomorrow to talk more Steelers. And by the way, you can go back on the channel and watch today's episode of the Pump Fake, which is my national NFL podcast. Me and JP Acosta break down the winners and losers from the NFL draft, our favorite picks, our least favorite picks. We talk about wrestling at the end because we're both big pro wrestling fans. So you can go watch that. Or if you don't want to watch it, if you're on the go, you can listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that's the Pump Fake with Jarrett Bailey. You can watch it on here or listen to it wherever you get your podcast. I'll see you all tomorrow to talk Steelers. I'll see you later in the week as well for another edition of the Pump Fake at some point, figuring all that out still with who it's going to be with. But busy content stuff. I'll see you guys tomorrow talking about the Steelers. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you soon.